Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the markets. That's the crypto market, the NFT market, the stock market, the Tesla market, and the silver market, those precious commodities too. That's what we talk about now, because we'll talk about whatever is moving up, and when they're going down as well, got to pay attention. A lot of volatility today, load up for discussion. We've got Bitcoin price action really whipsawing around, liquidating shorts and longs in both directions as the S&P moves down as well. Coinbase announces stock trading, prediction markets, and perps. We'll talk about the significance of those announcements and what we think about coin. And then finally, as we mentioned, we might wrap this in with the first headline: silver's hitting all-time highs and overtook Google's market cap. So we'll have a little reflection there as well. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as usual, plus a general market thoughts, maybe some portfolio discussion today, as this is the penultimate show before the holidays. So let's talk a little portfolio preparation and holiday management. So stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today. We're ready to get into it. Just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Thursday. It's the 18th of December. How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Jim, doing quite well. Can't complain. Did sleep 9 hours, excellent sleep score. Aura Ring is super happy with me, 97 out of 100 points. And I think it's also a very interesting period of time for liquidity providers, as this volatility is massively boosting all the fees. Just took a look at my position on Project X, the hype BTC one, which has now increased to 77% APY, because there's so much fluctuation, so much volatility and trading action going on. Obviously, both of the assets are going down at the same time, so you still have impermanent loss as a issue there. But per se, if you find a pair that you're comfortable with holding both assets for a longer period of time, it is a very, very juicy yield that can be farmed.
I hear you. I hear you that there's juicy yield on the LP side on Project X, but I specifically went through all of the LPs on Project X the other day, and I went through all of them on Uniswap as well, trying to find something. It's like, look, I want to play, I want to be in this game. Do I like two assets enough to hold? And so the question is, do I hold two assets enough in size? And do I hold enough? And do I want to earn more of both of them, and kind of don't mind which way the pair goes? And the answer was no at the moment. Like Bitcoin Hype, which is the one I want to hear why you still like that LP. That was the main one for me when Project X first came out. It got me really, really high up. I did it in big size when I still held a lot of hype. And I think I was approaching the top 100, 200 on Project X in terms of points. I've drifted off now because I've kind of exited a number of positions, so I'm not sure where I am now. But I've reduced my hype holdings significantly, reduced Bitcoin holdings for the first time ever, and I can't find two assets that I'm happy to go through this period with earning the yield. I was looking a little bit at gold. Could I do gold against the dollar? But then that yield is not very high. Could I do gold against gold, like PAX G and Tether Gold, XAUT? It's like I don't think I found a decent pool for that either. So I couldn't find something. So talk me through why you still like Hype BTC as a pair with this yield, and further reflections on LPing at the moment.
Yeah. This one is still primarily because I just still have Hype and I have BTC. And I think it's just nice yield. Happy to.
You doing this in size?
I'm telling you what I'm doing in size. I'm sharing the pool with you in a second. So this is a smaller pool for me, I would argue.
Okay.
My biggest pool by far is this one. Let me get it up on screen. You might like this one. It's a Uniswap V3. It's wrapped Bitcoin and gold, Tether Gold. 0.3% fee tier, 7 million in TVL there. 30-day average APY for that is 19%. I like gold, I like BTC. Don't mind earning 20% on LPing between the two of those. So this is one which I like quite a lot. It's still relatively small in size. 7 mil is not too much. You can make a significant dent in there if you want to go in with size. And I don't think you need to be afraid that someone comes in and puts I don't know, 50 mil into that and dilutes the heck out of everyone. So that is the sweet spot pool for me. That's definitely the one where I have the most amount of money in when it comes to LPing.
Okay. I like it. I think I looked at an equivalent of this one as well. And this is just how not happy I am with giving up gold exposure for Bitcoin at the moment. I looked at this one as well. Out of the ones we've just discussed, I think these are the two that I'm holding in sufficient size to do this. So, you know, as I said, my hype exposure is so low now, I wouldn't even be able to do it properly with Bitcoin anymore. And my gold exposure with Bitcoin, I can do. So this is in the right realm. So I give you that. But
one follow-up question for you, and then I want to hear from Oxy as well, who has his hand up. But my follow-up question for you: how would you feel about gold, silver?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about silver, but maybe that would be a cool one. Do we have that option?
I would be highly surprised if we don't have tokenized silver.
Okay, yeah. So this is the thing, yeah. Like, in a world where tokenized, sorry, in a world where Bitcoin is digital gold, and you can kind of sort that out with real gold, I wouldn't have minded it, gold and Bitcoin, but I just think that narrative is flat out failing entirely, and still means Bitcoin can be a solid asset moving forward, but it's flat out not behaving like gold. So, therefore, I don't like the swapping in and out. But silver gold, yeah, maybe I kind of like it. Have you had any luck, Ledge? Otherwise, we'll go to our LP Dynamo in the meantime, Oxy.
Yeah, there's Kinesis Silver that has 250 mil market cap. It's a rather small one. I'm looking to see if I can find an interesting pool there, but it's definitely not as straightforward as like gold and BTC.
All right, you have a little look. While you're doing a little research, let's hear from our LP Dynamo. Oxy, what are your thoughts here, my man? Legendary still in Bitcoin Gold. I'm all out. Couldn't find two assets that I thought were useful at the moment. How are you making money LPing in this down market where the two assets are going down at the same time? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm kind of with you. I mean, I kind of started pulling some money out of LPs, but mostly just stabling up in general. So obviously holding a lot of stables right now, and I'm like, okay, this is my crypto portfolio. This is like these stables are for, getting into crypto or trading crypto. So what I've resorted to doing is dumping a lot of like my stable USDT into a single side going down Bitcoin pool. So, I put, whatever X amount of dollars in USDT, going from, I think it was 95,000 all the way down to 75,000. So essentially DCAing into Bitcoin, on the way down while earning 57% APY on Project X. So it's,
you can do that single-sided?
Yeah. So you can set it up where, well, you can. I entered in at like 95K is how I did it single sided. So, my range was like 95K. Like it hit 95K. I'm like, all right, you know what? I have a lot of stables sitting here. If it keeps going down, I'm going to DCA in from 95 down to, I think it was 75. I'll have to look, but and I'm earning, I think 57% on that or something along those lines.
That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Can you do the same thing for gold?
Yeah, you'll be able to do the same deal for gold as well. Yeah.
You could say like DCA all the way down to 3,900 or something.
Right. Correct. Yep. You
can like from here down to 3,900.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
Okay. I don't mind that. Maybe I'll have a little look at that possibility. I suspect though the yield on that would be much lower, because when I just looked at doing the normal LP for gold and dollars, like it wasn't really anything to make me get out of bed, really. Ledge, did you have any further thoughts on Oxy's thoughts? I thought they were pretty interesting. Any thoughts on that? Any further investigation findings?
I like that DCing in, DCing out, having the yield to farm that. The single-sided stuff is super interesting. It's not something I have set up at the moment, because I I'm happy with my current like DCA setup. The other thing that I was looking at as we were talking a bit of the price action is I just wanted to see, because I was looking at Project X, then I wanted to find the silver yield, and then I somehow ended up looking for some stuff on Hyperliquid, and then I saw MegaETH and Monad as well. Both of them are still moving like in sync. I know that doesn't have anything to do with our LP discussion, but that was just something I observed. Like Monad is down to 18 cents, so 1.8 bill FTV. It's down 30% on the week. Nobody's talking about that. And MegaETH is also moving down. MegaETH is down 16% on the perp set of things, down to 2.3 bill FTV. So despite the fact that one's live and the other one's like still not yet trading, they're pretty much still moving in sync, which basically follows the general market, but still feels kind of weird somehow.
Yeah, that is. I noted the Monad price in the snapshot today, so we'll touch on it briefly in a second as well. But that's concerning, right? I mean, if ETH gets slammed, everything gets slammed. If Bitcoin gets slammed, everything's going to get slammed. If ETH gets slammed, all of these other tokens will get slammed. So, yeah, it's a problem. It's a real problem, I would say. There's no getting around that. That is not an ideal situation to be in, I don't think, for anyone either that has just launched or is about to launch. There's a lot of teams still raising money to launch very soon. It's a savage market right now. So it's maybe one of the only ways you can secure the investment is by offering terms which are so attractive that forces people's hands like, okay, well, even in a terrible market, we are offering such a great deal that people will be happy to come in. Maybe controversial statement for me here, Legendary, and we'll get into the main stuff in a second, but I like the train of thought we're on. I would actually rather see, and this maybe, I'm sure no one else wants this in the world, but I would rather see an attractive valuation. Everyone's trying to raise right now and then TG like in 2 weeks. Like, I just think that's incredibly rushed. I don't think that is going to work right now because the market is what the market is. Like, you can only play what the market is on the field in front of you. I don't know if that's an expression, but you know, you get what I mean. I would rather see an even more attractive valuation and no TGE for until next cycle. That is not what anyone wants. That is what I would much rather, because I think you would do better, but likely you don't have the patience for that. That's what I would want what I would hope as I've kind of evolved into a more proper investor. Of course, sometimes there's quick moves that you can make, and you know, we'll still keep our eyes on the ball for those types of things. I think going into a TGE, you know, in the next 2 weeks, if Bitcoin keeps trending down, no matter where you raise, no matter how attractive your thing is, it's just really hard right now. And if you have an amazing team, there's a couple of teams we've backed, Ledger, who like some time ago, well, I'm pretty chilled. Like if I really like the team and they're taking ages over it and they don't think it's right, I'm actually okay with it. It's only the ones where I was chasing something speculative, then I get a bit annoyed at them. I get a bit annoyed at myself. Like, can you just TG so I can get this money out as soon as possible? So that's my reflection there. Curious for yours, because I know you've allocated a lot of capital in this direction as well. And then we'll get into the main stuff as usual.
Generally agree with the sentiment that I have some long-term investments where I don't mind that they are not TGing. But the addition to that is these investments are also typically the ones that never did swing the TGE carrot in front of you and said, oh, we're going to TGE in October,
True.
we're going to TGE in March or whatever. And this is
and you as the investor never ask, because you're like, cool, I like you. Yeah.
There's a specific team where I didn't even ask for terms. I asked like, how much money will you let me put in? I like you so much.
I've done that.
Yeah, probably talking about the same company. Here's my money. Take it. And you know, I don't want to see a pitch deck. I don't want to see valuations. I don't want to ask you when you TG. You just do your thing. And you had a good post on that, right? You had this repost when it came to, I think it was Serp from Ethos who you quote reposted, and talking about the like protective systems that one can build to solve for this like token versus equity accountability problem. We're like, if you're betting on good founders, you don't want to basically put a glass box on top of them. You want them to operate as freely as they can. Highly agree with that. Nonetheless, this absurdity in this market or in our industry still is that we had a beautiful bull run. Everything happened that we could have ever wished for. BTC 125k, etc. And so many projects were like, even over the summer, postponing TGEs or saying they're waiting for better market conditions. They don't want a TGE now when everyone else is probably TGEing. And now, when we're in a downturn, everyone is rushing suddenly to TGE. This is so absurd. But it happens every cycle. It's, it happens every cycle. Talk to companies, hear the same thing every time. We don't want to get too convoluted. We do postpone, then the cycle's over, and then they're rushing a TG out, which in most cases is an unfortunate turn of events.
Yeah. And I think maybe for people, and bear in mind, you've been around longer than me. I've been around since 2021. But I feel like I've got into the groove of it relatively well. And actually, I might have outperformed on the angel side, I need to look back at my numbers, but it's something I've definitely taken to really well. And in general, I really cannot stress to people more than anything that when I look back at the things that have done well for me, of course, there are some that were like a bit of a flyer, a bit of a speculative bet, and actually one or two did really well in that direction. But mostly the things which are doing great, or the ones that I'm most confident on, are with founders that you don't really care. You just think that, you know that they've got this, and they've got it. They know what they're doing. You're confident in them. They'll figure it out themselves. And you definitely don't want to put these like restrictive barriers on them so that they can execute to the best of their ability. But interesting conversation. We went through in a variety of directions here. We also want to do a little bit of a portfolio holiday prep. So we'll do that after I do the roundup, because we've only got a couple of days left. I'm sure many people are coming towards the holidays, thinking, analyzing, trying to decide what they want to do before they log off, maybe a little bit over the holidays. So we'll get into that as well today, as well as hit you with the usual headlines as well, because there are some interesting ones which we'll talk about. But as usual, let's get to the main headlines, starting with the price action. We're looking at Bitcoin, which is now flat, up 0.01%, but it was pretty whipsaw price action yesterday. Legendary, we'll talk about that in a bit. It's at 87k now. ETH is down 2% to 2.8k. BNB is down 2% as well to 837. Sol's down 3% to 123. Having to scroll down further and further down this list to find our favorite alternative currency, Hyperliquid, down 11% on the day to $24. So pretty savage price action on Hyperliquid. Looking at the more speculative side, Doge is down 3% to 12 cents. Pepe's down 4% as well. Pump's down 11%, down to 2 bill FDV. This is, what's that ICO at? Was it 4 bill? So 50% haircut for ICOers on Pump. And now Bonk is down 5% as well. Pengu's down another 6%, getting smashed in general. SPX down 9%, down 20% on the week. Pippin, one of the only green coins, although pretty volatile, up 4% on the day, up 40% on the week, but still down from its highs recently. WIF is down 6%. Fartcoin is down, my lord, Fartcoin's down 22% in one day. It's more, this is very rarely the case. It's more down on the day than it is on the week. Like, how's that even possible according to these stats? I don't even know how that makes sense. I'm sure there's something that makes sense there. I'm just not processing it. My brain's not processing it immediately. Tibber is down 20% as well. Rect is down 10% as well. So look, carnage across the board here, guys, when ETH goes down 2% in alts, basically. Getting into the headlines themselves, we've got Bitcoin price action wild, liquidating shorts in both directions. Sorry, shorts and longs in a very short time frame. As the S&P is kind of showing some weakness. Legendary, we'll get into that in a second. We've got Coinbase announcing stock trading, prediction markets, and perps. We'll digest that new offering in just a moment. We've got silver hitting all-time highs and overtaking the Google market cap. Just on the NFT side, mostly red as well. Chimpa's being the biggest move down to 0.53 ETH. Pudgy Penguins down to 4.6, Bored Apes down under 5 as well. Moonbirds down to 1.4. So that's the quick headlines there. DTCC, in terms of the roundup, teams up with Canton Network to tokenize DTC custodied securities on chain. Coinbase announced partnership with Kalshi for its prediction market, so that's another win for Kalshi. DYDX announced a partnership with Bonk to create a Bonk DEX. This is another example of the proliferation of more and more DEXs. Euler Labs announced its lending stack is now available on Hyper EVM. Circle announced the ARC Builders Fund to build out on their L1. Uniswap founder submits a unification proposal for a final governance vote, which is to burn 100 million Uni tokens and switch on the fee switch for V2 and V3. V4 will be a separate proposal. And Hyperlend announced an airdrop terms and conditions for participants to agree before the airdrop. So if you have participated on Hyperlend in the Hyper EVM ecosystem, you got to go sign those terms as you did for Kinetic. Although, gosh, Kinetic's market cap I think was down at 12 last time we checked, or 12 or 16, and Harmonix I believe came out at 2 mil earlier today. So this is not promising for the Hyper EVM. Hyperliquid token itself struggling, and Hyperliquid holders barely caring for the ecosystem that much anyway, because they prefer the Hype token itself so much. So struggling times for the Hyper EVM ecosystem. Solstice announced a Legion sale incoming on December the 22nd. So that's another Legion sale in a few days, seeking to raise, I can't remember the number they're raising, but it's at 130 mil FDV. So fairly healthy FDV there. And finally, a couple bits of news. Gondi announced ability to trade any asset, including optionality to make private offers and negotiate with parties. I think that's a pretty cool feature. And I saw a lot of positive reactions to Gondi. Full disclosure, I'm an early investor in Gondi, and I think they've always done an awesome job. The lane's open for them, really, given how much OpenSea keep fumbling the bag with these endless farming of their users, with wave 4 now on that stream of airdrop farming. So the lane is open for Gondi, I think, but OpenSea will still have the traction and the attention as they often do. And then finally, Moonbirds announced Telegram sticker sale for today. That is the roundup. A lot to discuss before we get into the main stuff, Ledge. Anything catching your attention here? And then we'll do a little bit of a portfolio conversation, general roundup thoughts. But what's catching your attention first?
I have a reflection that's maybe not necessarily on any of the news in particular, but more like the topic of the roundups of the last months, I would say. And there's two things that I would love to bring up for that. One of which is not this. It is RWA.xyz, real world assets, and stats on that, because we did cross 300 bill in stablecoin value. That is very, very significant. Obviously, represented asset value is higher than that because we have more than just stablecoins as real world assets. That is sitting at 410 mil. So RWAs are the narrative that we have been revisiting from so many aspects in the roundup, especially now, I would say, over the last weeks or so, mostly from the on-chain equity perps coming to life from different platforms, seeing increased volume, and that also leading to the TradFi world needing to take action. Nasdaq is now going forward with the 24/5 trading, so 24 hours trading from Monday to Friday, from Q2 2026. I think that was the news that I read with that. And there's also been, that's the second thing that I wanted to bring up, and you've probably seen it on the timeline, this article, which I think is then also a beautiful segue into the portfolio reflection that you wanted to do, from Dagi, called "Crypto is Dead," from Figment Capital. And the key point here is, or some of the key points are, that he's saying crypto as a self-contained world is dying. So we did build a bubble that is mostly targeted to crypto native people. We are building better casinos, we're building better apps to speculate on, but all of that is done for crypto native people. And we have done that with points programs, with airdrops, with speculative assets over years and years and years, and this has been super, super successful. But ultimately, this is a cul-de-sac. There is no more progressing from that. So this transition is happening, in his opinion, from crypto world native to real world native. And there's a bunch of protocols or application cases that he sees surviving that, which is permissionless access. Anyone can plug in and build, global liquidity, 24/7 markets, composability, and user ownership. And everything that is being built around that is basically the new playbook, the on-chain perps, the DEXs, the equity perps, which we've been talking about, and the other things, the old playbook is running out of road. The article is way, way longer than that. But ultimately, I thought this was were some super interesting takeaways, which I wanted to link to that RWA discussion or stats. And then also some of that is like pretty formative for my current thinking on my portfolio and where I want to go forward with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with I agree with the essence of what you're saying, and I think personally, I know a lot of people will say that when crypto is down, these things always happen. The conversations always trend in this direction. I think I think this time is different. Famous last words. The reason why I think this time is slightly different, because if you asked us at any point in the past of crypto, like about crypto, and if you were to ask, forget crypto itself, if you were to ask the question, what is the next most interesting, revolutionary, game-changing technology that we should be focused on in the future? Because remember, investment is about the future. Excitement is about the future. What are those things? And I think even in all the previous bear markets, you could have whether this is a bear market or not, it doesn't really matter. I think we will be in an extended period of this or trending lower. That's my personal thought at the moment. They're happy to change it if I see something else. But my idea would be, if you were to answer that question more generally, I'll tell you why I'm thinking this. I don't know if you've seen the play Legendary, where they do the history of, I think is it JP Morgan? No, what was the bank that went down in 2008? Lehman Brothers. They do the Lehman Brothers. There's a play in London. I'm sure they did it in New York as well. And they go through the Lehman Brothers history, like the history of how they started out in some, like, I think it might have been textiles. I can't, I often forget the details, but they started out like doing some trade. Then they started investing in stuff. And the reason they had such longevity over time is they kept investing in the next thing. They kept, they went into railroads and they went into aviation, and went into whatever. Like, it was always the next thing. And sure, the things that they left behind are still valuable. They don't just suddenly become not valuable. But the point is, when you're investing for larger upside in the future, that's the point. You're investing in the future. And so for the first time, and I think maybe this is how I would articulate why crypto is experiencing like a little bit of a lull, it's because so much of the potential of its future has now been realized. And what that means is that I don't think you would answer the question, like, what is the next best, interesting, game-changing investment for the future? I don't think the answer is crypto anymore. I think it's sufficiently, I mean, if you just stop to dwell on where Bitcoin has got to, it's mind-blowing. Like, it's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible that Bitcoin's got to where it's got to. It's incredible. It's an incredible story from inception until BlackRock ETF. Unbelievable. But you're thinking about the future. And so sure, this could trend up forever over a long time frame, but it's no longer the thing that it was. And so this is my reflection when I'm thinking about that question, like what am I looking to invest in for the future? Crypto definitely was it for a period of time. And I think now there'll be pockets of opportunity within crypto for sure. And we'll always stay in crypto because the fundamental Rails is amazing for business. Like it's literally going to take over the world from a pure business perspective, and businesses will use it because the Rails are better than the traditional system. But to what extent you can capture that as a investor is going to be less clear, I think. And so we'll still participate. We'll still, you know, take the wins where we can. But I think, you know, we're going to have to move into the answers to the questions, which is, okay, AI has been an answer to that question for a while now already. Maybe that needs to cool off. But, you know, you're starting to hear more conversations about physical AI being robotics. You're starting to have more conversations around drones, even, I think, as like the next form of defense and warfare and things of that nature. And I'm sure there's other things as well, which I have not looked into yet. But as we go into a market that starts to cool off, these are the things I want to be thinking about more as I think about where the world is going to, rather than where it is. And so I still think there's all kinds of ways crypto needs to get integrated into the world, but it's not the delta that it used to be between like dream and reality. So I've talked a lot there, Ledge. Some like long-ish reflections moving into the portfolio discussion, I guess. But what's your reflections, response, thoughts?
Very, very much like that line of thinking, because ultimately what you were describing eloquently is the sell the news event. Everything that we wanted crypto to be has been achieved or is getting there. The payment rails, the adoption, maybe even the narrative of BTC being able to rival physical gold, all of that is happening. And it kind of makes sense that there is like a sell-off and a loss of excitement, although that doesn't conflict with the notion of certain stuff like BTC continuing to trend up over a long enough period of time, because ultimately some of the things that were exciting in the world of equity and stocks had a bubble as well, and now they're just staples, and they had a dump, but they're still growing and as a part of the S&P, but they are not the outperformance anymore, right? Now tech is the outperformance. The AI companies, yes, they are down on the day, but they have been outperforming, and the rest has become more of the core and staple forming the index and becoming a bit more boring. So now the questions, go for it.
No, you go. Finish your thought.
So now the question is exactly that, like what is the next thing to be excited for? And for me, these things, like I was excited about crypto 7 years ago and thinking, oh, how this could change the future of finance, of banking, of payments. I've watched this more than 7 years ago, actually. Wow, I'm getting old. 9 years ago. And I watched this basically happen over the course of a decade. And now the question is what the next thing is to be excited about. AI, for me, definitely fulfills that role. Like always like this thing of how this notion of the societal changes that can come with AI. So does robotics. Seems like longevity and our quest to fight death is something that becomes more realistic to see happen, to see meaningful progress fighting against cancer, dementia, other things in our lifetimes. But so is also then space exploration. There is probably a reason why SpaceX is facing such a high IPO, because now if we're talking about building data centers in space, it doesn't sound like some sort of utopia where we're like fantasizing about, oh, this is something that humanity could do within 4 generations. It's all these things that have been distant thought and envisionment of how we could see the future are suddenly getting to a point where we can basically see a lot of things happening within our lifetime, within a decade, within 2-3 decades maybe. And this is the stuff that now gets me very, very excited. But that, again, is not in conflict with crypto still remaining an interesting industry and still having pockets of opportunities, or of opportunity, as you called it, and seeing BTC and other things going up. And there's still so much more to be done if you want to fully integrate crypto as the backbone of finance and payment rails. But it's not the thing where I see the most exciting outperformance at the moment, because it's also not where most of my recent interest or my interest this year has been like gravitating towards.
I like it. Very, very interesting thoughts. I want to pitch something quickly before we get into the main headlines, because I've honestly, the last few days, I love downturns in markets. I feel like there's a bit of peace. I feel like the tourists leave. I put a tweet out earlier saying like, I feel like I can step back into Twitter when the market's going crazy. Everyone's just posting charts all the time. It's boring for me. Seeing people just say what the price is boring. Like I don't need to read tweets so that I can watch the chart myself, and then everyone getting like crazy excited. But the reason why I enjoy it more, because I feel like this is the time to do the work and start thinking about the important questions for how you want to allocate as prices get to something which you would like to buy. And so, and then the bull market is actually, yeah, fine. You can chase a few things. You can speculate. Obviously, we do that a lot, and we come up with our thesis on a shorter time frame. But I feel like in the next few months, potentially, is when you do the work to find the things you buy at a lower price, and then the bull market, you don't actually even have to do anything. You just ride the wave. My favorite way of thinking about investing is just taking things from undervalued to fair value. And that's probably enough to exist. And all I've really done in my few years in crypto is ride the wave. I rode the wave of NFTs in 2021 and then sold. And then I rode the next wave in Bitcoin significantly, and hype, and a couple others. I missed Sol. So, you know, I didn't ride all the waves, and you don't actually even need to. But the one thing I wanted to pitch as an idea, Ledge, not only to you, because you actually know this, I was doing some reflecting as we go into the end of the year on like what we can do at the modern market. So it's a little bit of a pitch to you, a little bit of a pitch to everyone in the audience. I want to know if there's any demand for this. But I just sent you a tweet in Telegram. So if you could just pull this one up. It's from Levels.io. I think his handle is, that's just his handle. Really awesome, like coder, investor, business person who just goes off and codes stuff and makes tons of money. Really interesting follow when it comes to just business, coding, small businesses, traveling around the world, how he thinks about investing. He said he bought $1 million of Google today. And I think this might've been today, and Elon actually replied to him saying hardware is the end game. That's it. That's all he said. And the thing that got me thinking there, and look, this is not me presenting a thesis right now. This is me looking at the world, looking at these specific comments, thinking about the world as we know it now and how it's going to move in the next 6, 12, 18 months, thinking we need to do some thinking here. As I just said, we need to do the work. We need to do some thinking. And what I would like to do, if there is demand, and if you are listening here thinking you want to participate, what I'd like to do is DM, if you have our Telegrams, DM me at bcheck on Telegram if you're interested, or if you don't yet, because I know I saw there's some people in the modern market DMs saying they want to get into the Telegram. We're going to get to those requests. I know I put that message out again recently, but if you're interested, I want to create like maybe a smaller group of people who want to put in the work. Like we're going to have to put in the work to address some of these bigger questions, and we're going to do some research. Maybe this opportunity will not be free. Like this is not like we already have a free Telegram. There's like 220, 230 people in there. But do you want to be part of a smaller group of people who would need to pay to participate in a very, very focused group addressing some of the bigger questions that we're thinking through when it comes to investing over the next 6, 12, 18 months, and developing maybe a slightly different thesis? Up until this point, we've just been like, okay, buy the dip, buy the Bitcoin dip. It might be different in moving forward. So whilst you can still do that, I think the world is going to be different in the future. And we're going to need to spend some time and effort addressing that. So if that is something which is interesting to you, DM at bcheck on Telegram. There's no guarantees at the moment. It's an idea. I literally thought about it this morning. It's something that excites me, and I often try to follow my curiosity and think of exciting things to do. Ledge, your thoughts there before we maybe hit some of the headlines finally?
Very, very much like that, especially from the perspective of a conversation that we had probably a year ago or so. If you remember when we talked about like learning when we do the show, and that there's like periods of time when we feel like we have to learn a lot in order to be able to do the show to the best of our abilities and transfer and transport new knowledge, break down concepts which we did not understand yet previously. And I feel like this has been going away over the last couple of months, and I have this like hunger for new knowledge. So I very, very much like that. Also see Funky with his hand up. Definitely want to hear from Funky again, who at the same time in the YouTube comments is saying that I have been doing something on the show that needs to be turned to a GIF, which I find a bit concerning, but curious to hear your thoughts on our discussion so far, Funky.
Jam, it was you drinking out of the espresso cup with your pinky in the air. But your point about the hardware being the end game, obviously, you guys know we run fully on bare metal, global stake, and we're seeing vendors cancel purchase orders and telling us that the quotes that we've been given recently are basically no longer valid. In the last week, we've seen a 30% increase in hardware, specifically the RAM, NVMe, SSD, whatever. And the vendors are telling us that we are to expect the climb into next year. So I think that this is something that's really worth paying attention to. Like personally, one of my biggest wins was going in big in 21 into Avgo, which is Broadcom. I mean, you look at Broadcom, you look at AMD, you look at any of the chip manufacturers in the last year alone, the prices of these equities have absolutely exploded. I think probably the most dangerous thing in an age of AI, too, when we're talking about the chess game that's being played, especially among geopolitics, is the constant threat of China and saber rattling over Taiwan. And, all the chips and a lot of that stuff is still made in Taiwan. So that could be something that's quite scary moving into the future, where if this really is becoming an arms race for AI and hardware and all the chips are made there and it's close proximity to China, this is definitely something to watch. But we're going to see prices continue to climb into 2026. So something worth keeping an eye on, and hardware definitely is the end game.
Interesting. Yeah, man. I would love to explore that conversation more, because I feel like, look, we don't know all of the things. We came up, me specifically came up buying and selling JPEGs. Like that was the start. And we've learned, I specifically have learned about all this stuff backwards, and I fully intend, and frankly did really, really well learning about crypto backwards from NFTs. And I absolutely fully 110% intend to learn about the rest of the stock market backwards. Okay, fine. And now I understand how crypto moves. I understand flows. I understand how it trades. Now I'm going to learn the next thing. And it doesn't mean you take 100% of your stack and go into something that you don't understand fully. It means we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. We're going to do it responsibly. And I think there's, I think we're at that kind of juncture where we need to identify that next thing in some way. So look, that's interesting. I can see some, multiple DMs coming through on Telegram. Appreciate you guys for reaching out, expressing some interest. If that idea does interest you, remember this will not be, we've got the free Telegram already. This would be like something paid, something focused, like a focused group where we direct research and sort things out in that way. So if that is interesting, you DM me at bcheck on Telegram, and we'll explore it. We're going to have a think. Nothing guaranteed yet, but we'll keep you in the loop as we kind of go into the holidays, and then maybe we'll have some concrete information for you soon. But look, that's a very, very interesting conversation. Excited to have more of those. Let's get to the first headline now, and I think you can wrap silver into this, by the way. You're going to take us through what's going on with Bitcoin. The first and third headlines we can probably put together here and just talk about through how these main assets are really behaving very, very erratically. What do we need to know?
Absolutely. Just giving a quick shout out to the YouTube comments. Overarch is liking the idea, saying talking through AI is vital when it comes to that Telegram chat, which we've been talking about. And Oxy sees space exploration, asteroid, planet mining as something that could be the future of commodities and hardware. But let's get into the first piece of headline. As you said, we've seen exceptional volatility over the last 24 hours going both directions. 24 our rect chart on CoinGlass is showing that $550 million have been liquidated, thereof 380 million in longs and 160 million in shorts. And we also see a picture which is very, very unconventional. We have ETH, where over the last 24 hours, the majority which has been liquidated is longs. 162 mil worth of longs have been liquidated. And BTC is red because 153 million of shorts have been liquidated, because we had this flash pump to 90K, which lasted for 22 minutes or so, and then we corrected down. And this is a very, very atypical picture to see the two biggest assets over the same period of time, over 24 hours, and in one the longs, and in the other one, the shorts have been liquidated. You also said, rightly so, that this is happening against the backdrop of the S&P 500 not having the strongest day necessarily. If we take a look here, it doesn't look as dramatic if you look at the index. The index is only down 1.16% over the last 24 hours. However, if we look on the Nasdaq side of things, Nasdaq's down more, 1.8%. And this picture is becoming clearer if we move on to Finvis to look at some of the individual price action, where we can definitely see that NVIDIA, AFCO, Google, are AMD even, so the tech, the AI companies, the chip manufacturers are the ones which have corrected to the tune of 4 to 5% over the last 24 hours. Side note that also Tesla is down 4% over the last day or so. And you nailed it yesterday with a comment on the show, B, where you said we had Tesla 2 days in a row as a main headline that the price is up. That typically is a good sign to see a price correction happening after that. And exactly that has happened. So this is what is happening on the stock side of things, where mostly the AI related, chip related sell-off has fueled some more fear in crypto and has also led to the overall index correcting down. Now, if we move on to take a look at gold and silver, gold is still steadily holding above 4.3K. Silver went as high as $66.6, currently trading at $66.16, and is up 6%. Is up. Gold is up 6% over the last 30 days, and by contrast, silver is up 30% over the last 30 days. It's up 130% over the last year. There's a great article on the Financial Times kind of explaining this dual role that silver is having at the moment, where on the one hand, we see a lot of uncertainty in the market, especially now with the weakening job market and people fleeing into gold and silver. But it's not only this fear and greed and these rising levels of financialization. The other thing is the industrial demand for silver has risen steadily, particularly from sectors such as EVs and computing chips. And if history is a guide, the FT article continues to say this will eventually lead to an expansion in supply. It has more mining, but that cannot be implemented quickly. That takes time. So there is a current mismatch of supply and demand. And this imbalance has become even more intense, as the White House recently also said that silver is a strategic commodity, which then also did raise or increase some fear of looming tariffs. And there's been stockpiling of silver inside of America specifically, which has led to something that I haven't seen many people speak about, which is significant price gaps when it comes to silver on the UK market, on the London market, and on the New York market. And obviously there's people arbitraging between that, which is not as trivial as it might sound. But we can see, basically to sum it up, this dual demand for silver, the fear-driven asset like gold on the one hand, but also industrial demand rising. And obviously in order to ramp up silver mining and be able to satisfy that demand and to match supply and demand again, this is taking time. It's a similar picture as Funky perfectly painted before with the RAM prices. I have a chart up here for 2 16 gigs DDR4 RAM sticks. They've been basically flat all of 2024 at roughly €100. That's roughly 117 US dollars, and only very recently shot up to 300 euro. That's roughly 360 USD, because it just takes time to ramp up the production for that, as well as it also takes time to ramp up silver mining. And this is one of the reasons why the silver price has escalated so strongly over the year. And again, gold also is on track to actually have its best year, being up 67% over the last year since 1979, I think. It's just a touch of beating that year. So that has certainly contributed to silver's performance as well. But because there's additional demand driver, silver is currently outperforming gold.
I did look at a long time frame chart on gold though, and there's humongous periods of time where some of these assets don't go anywhere. And I don't know, when I think through the thought process for where we are now, I don't see a scenario where this retraces significantly, knowing that one of the very large buyers of gold in the last few months has been Tether. Remember, we spoke about how it was actually Tether accumulating more than any other country in the last 2 quarters. I'm pretty sure that data is accurate. Just double check if I got the right thing. I think it was the last 2 quarters or in the last few months or something like that. It was a Financial Times article. Although, as you said, it's not always public how much they've accumulated in relation to countries, because we don't think countries report that information perfectly. But I feel like that's buy to hold gold, Tether's not liquidating their gold. So I'm kind of the opinion these commodities, knowing that what we know is going to happen about in the rest of the US market moving forward, rates are going to come down, like at some point in time. And I think now we can safely say that rates coming down doesn't necessarily mean that all assets start ripping as soon as that happens. Like, I don't think that's the case. I do think when you layer the political landscape over the top of the next 4 years, 4 years is a long time. We've only been in charge. Trump's only been in charge for a year. And so there's time for the market to cool and for them to then ramp it up again at some point in time later if they need to. So I think we've just got to be patient. That's the same thing I've been saying for quite some time. And I actually do think assets, these type of commodities, will continue to rise. I don't know about you in terms of percentage, Ledge, but like I think maybe gold has risen to around pushing 10% of my portfolio, which I'd never had gold before. I didn't really know what number to come out at there. Maybe it's actually still beneath 10. Maybe it's like between 5 and 10 somewhere. I don't know if you have a number for these type of commodities that you like. Would it be a permanent number? Who's going to change it? What do you think?
Yeah, historically, my gold exposure was more conservative. That was something to the tune of 5% of my portfolio is chilling in gold. Way more of that is chilling in BTC. That has now shifted over the course of this year, where I pretty publicly said that I'm acquiring more and more and more gold, and it's moving more towards the 10-15-ish%
Fair enough
range.
I think I might hold the same in gold as I do in Bitcoin now, like equal. That's how much my Bitcoin kind of reduced, but interesting. Okay, well, something to keep an eye on. I don't think there's like an immediate action to take there necessarily, but it's definitely shifted higher, and I'm okay with shifting it higher. Like, this is not part of the portfolio that I'm trading in and out of. I know you maybe traded gold a little bit earlier in the year, Ledge, but that's not something I'm doing. This is just like a structural shift in the portfolio based on where I think the world is going in the next few years, which, fair enough, is up a lot, but that doesn't matter to me. It's my personal view. Look, let's get to the final headline for today. This is the news that Coinbase has announced stock trading, prediction market, and perps, all in this kind of big base, kind of Coinbase Day system update, which they announced yesterday. They've done this kind of big show explaining that they've got all these new products to ship. Taking this tweet from Sam, who's at Masari, just kind of summarizing the product offering. They said, to summarize the Coinbase announcements, they're fully leaning into the neobank roadmap, which arguably is the end game for all anything crypto related. Like, if you're unsure of what to do next, take custody of some funds and send a card out, and hopefully people can buy coffee with your money. Equity spot trading and perps, direct deposits, USDC lending rate, A2A payments, don't know what that stands for, AI financial advisors, borrow against Bitcoin and ETH, planning to expand to more assets. Pretty insane updates in Sam's opinion. Coinbase is easily the most competitive offering among crypto native neobanks, although I present to you the other side, which I think is important too. And actually this is one that I lean towards. Also, DeFi Ignis on the timeline shared this perspective, said one thing Coinbase fails to update: their customer service experience. I had my account blocked and managed to delete it and create a new one, but I'm worried that if I have an issue, CS wouldn't help me. Customer service would not help me. In comparison, never had a single issue with Binance in 2018. We had a very interesting conversation in Telegram chat earlier today, going back and forth on Coinbase. Some people see it as a B2B business, which that I think is the best way to view it, or that would be the thing which hopefully it is best at. It's got a decent moat in the US. I don't think it's going to be a forever moat. It obviously was a big first mover in the crypto space. Robinhood is coming after its lunch right here, right now. Although Robinhood has also not been perfect historically with crypto. But maybe like this B2B angle, if someone needs crypto custody or whatever, you would go to Coinbase. That's actually changed. It's not always going to Coinbase now. So I don't know how long that moat exists, but to the extent that something is positive about it, I do think the B2B angle is the best. That will keep them very profitable. However, I personally, this is my personal view, and this is like a very simplistic way of investing. I can't take serious a company that has this bad customer service and needs a prominent crypto Twitter person to deal with all of their customer service publicly. I respect Kobe for dealing with it. It's kind of cool that you can now get certain things done, but I can't. It's not possible to have this much disregard for the customer. One of Amazon, when I was briefly at Amazon for 6 months, and this is a comment, when I was a lawyer, I spent 6 months at Amazon in the media department, legal media department, and you start to learn these Amazon mantras. And I think number one is customer obsession. And that's like at the core of most company success. Like you have to care about your customers, otherwise they leave you. And I find very few examples of people saying good things about Coinbase besides the fact that they're this amazing American entity that's done a great job for the industry. All those things can be true, but the core customer experience, based from a whole wide variety of people now, is pretty awful. So I just want to tie that in there because I think it's relevant. You can't just keep saying nice things when it seems like so many people are having that awful customer experience, and everyone knows it, and they just don't do anything about it ever. So it's clearly not a priority. So that's my take, and curious for your thoughts there before we close out.
100% agree with that. Just to clarify on the A2A payments, A2A is account to account, so being able to send money from one account to another. In terms of customer service, it is such a low-hanging fruit for me. If I use Amazon, whenever I have an issue, as you said, you have the chat, you can call them. It's pretty helpful. They helped me with things that were way outside of any warranty period. And these stories stick with you, like similar experience. These are even the stories that you tell your friends. Similar experience I had with Derek Rose, which is a company, they do luxury sleepwear. I ordered something, I mismatched the size, and they were like, "Oh, we checked your order manually, and you ordered like 3 shirts in large and 1 in medium. Did you do this like intentionally, or should we fix that for you and ship all 4 in large?" Which is like such an easy thing to do, and it's a story that sticks with you. And Coinbase has been constantly failing at that. Now, the counter side to that would be if you say that they are like more focused on B2B, then make it that the customer experience for the regular retail user doesn't matter too much. But I can see it purely as a B2B play, given how strongly they are focusing on the one-stop shop for trading, the Base app, now that neobanking route, which ultimately all of them are retail products. So that is the thing that is upsetting me most as someone who's looking at the company and thinking whether I want to be an investor there or not. And quite frankly, I'm super happy that I, as a European, have options to use centralized exchanges outside of Coinbase, which I find more pleasant to deal with.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's been my general experience of it. And I mean, maybe just dwelling on the product a little bit more. I guess it's cool that all this stuff is coming out, but gosh, this is like all-time high competition across the board, as everything seems to be getting commoditized into these type of super apps where everyone is offering everything. Perps are getting plugged into Hyperliquid. I mean, not for Coinbase, but their prediction market's being offered by Kalshi. Everyone's trying to offer everything. And I feel like every single app, including the mainstream stuff, like you could see a world where DraftKings and these other traditional betting platforms in the States could add prediction markets. Maybe they end up adding perps as well via plugging into some of these companies. It's just, I think the competition is going to be really, really aggressive. And maybe in a small way, this is actually partly why Hype is struggling too now, as people starting to think, okay, well, literally every other place is going to have perps. I still think Hype is the best place. That's why I'm going to continue to trade it when I do trade it, which, by the way, I'm not doing a great deal now because you kind of turn that volume down as the market struggles. But you know, I think that might be a little bit why hype is struggling, along with hype's struggles with potential sell pressure, ongoing unlocks now for a long period of time. But that was maybe a final quick reflection there, Ledge, like hype being down pretty aggressively, more than 10%, more than the rest of the market in the last 24 hours. Do you have a view there? My personal view is that we're going to go lower. We're going to go lower. Seeing a lot of desperation on the timeline and about the founders not ideally not selling. Like, please don't sell. Like, this sounds like desperation to me, and it sounds like there's going to have to be a little bit more pain as people capitulate. What do you think?
Yeah, agree. Layer on top of that, the news which we covered yesterday, the assistant fund tokens considered to be burned, which I argued is ultimately a sell the news event, because before that you could have made the case, oh, maybe outside investors don't know that, so technically the FTV is lower, and now everyone is on a playing field, level playing field, and that's an additional, like, quote unquote edge that goes away, constitutes another sell the news event, and that, combined with what you just said, has exerted even more downward pressure on the token.
Okay, makes sense. Right, that's that, guys. Apologies for, well, we do not apologize for being bearish when we need to be bearish. We're just expressing the various ideas that are coming into our head, and we're just doing that honestly. Sometimes we're bullish, sometimes we're bearish, sometimes we don't know. We just express a view either way. We hope you enjoy it as always, and that is helpful to you. Our general sense is that it is, so we'll continue doing what we've always done. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts too. So if you don't follow along or subscribe in those places, please do. It makes a difference for the algorithms, for the support. We appreciate you so much for joining us. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, and we'll be back for our final show of the year tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.